It's a moment that I think everybody can relate to. I mean, what was going on in my life is my dream job, which was to be a daytime talk show host, ended.
Which you were great at.
Thank you. The show failed. I mean, let's be honest. It got canceled. I got fired from my dream job. That's what happened. I could make some lovely story up, but that's if I'd been amazing, we'd be in season 2. And so I find myself fired from my dream job. I then abruptly get a book contract canceled, not because the publisher is a jerk, but because I have crazy dyslexia and ADHD. It is next to impossible for me to take what's in my noggin and get it on a piece of paper. And I was a year late in delivering a manuscript.
You really?
So I then get a contract canceled and I have to return money I've already spent. And then the pandemic is just in full swing, and speech after speech after speech after speech starts canceling.
Right.
We get 3 kids coming home, 2 from college, 1 from middle school. We all know what it was like to be with our kids in the early days. They were like caged animals going through grief and fear and anger and aiming it right at us, the parents.
Yep.
And I found myself one morning standing in my bathroom in my underwear.
Okay.
I was brushing my teeth. I hadn't even had a cup of coffee yet. I hadn't put on a bra. I mean, I'm just standing there.
Giving me the visual. Appreciate it.
Yeah, please like brush it up somehow, okay? Because you trust me, you know, if you want to look at this, there's something wrong with you. So I am standing there, and of course, I look at the mirror, and I immediately think, ugh, I have jowls that look like saddlebags on a pack mule going into the Grand Canyon. I've got stripes on my neck. One tit is hanging lower than the other. I got gray hair coming in. I look down, the dog still has to be walked. I haven't responded to Ed's text. I've got a Zoom meeting in 9 minutes. I literally, my mind is taking me down the drain. I feel the mood drop. Look, like you, I am one of the most successful motivational speakers in the world.
It's so awesome.
I didn't have a fucking thing to say to myself.
Right, I've been there, yeah.
Like, all I wanted to do is crawl on the couch with the dog and have a cup of coffee. I wanted to not have to deal with anything or deal with anybody or face the problems that I felt. I wanted the stress to disappear. And I didn't know what to say. Here's the pathetic part.
Okay.
As if this isn't lame enough.
Right.
I literally, without thinking, raised my hand.
I love this.
And gave myself a high five in the mirror.
I love this.
And I could cry. Like, I just, my shoulders dropped. I kind of felt this like, okay.
Yeah.
Pick your head up.
Yeah.
It's okay, you got this. Wow. And I went on with my day.
Wow.
That was it.
In that moment, do you go, this is something?
No. God, no.
Not at
I'm
all.
like, don't tell anybody what just happened. Like, that is lame. Oh my God. Yeah, like normally what I would do is on a stressful day, it's like, fuck it, cancel the Zoom call and make a Bloody Mary. I mean, it's like, you know. So
25 billion people are agreeing and connecting with you right now, obviously.
But this is the truth.
Yeah.
Right? This is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the next morning, this is the weird part. This is when things got weird. I woke up, I always wake up when the alarm rings, and then I make my bed. Largely so I don't crawl back into it, but also so that I have a beautiful place to come back to sleep, so that I practice simple discipline.
Yep.
And as I walked toward the bathroom, something weird happened.
Okay.
I started to anticipate seeing myself. Sort of like, you know, when you pull out of your driveway and you got a neighbor that waves to you?
Yeah.
I felt like I was about to see a friend.
Interesting.
Now, here's the crazy part. I have probably spent the last 40 years either criticizing the person I see in the mirror.
Really?
Or ignoring her. And so I step into the bathroom, right? So I step in and there's your reflection. And I stood there for a minute, and like you, I'm really busy. And my mind is also like wildly active, constantly going. And when I stood there and stared at my reflection, knowing that I was about to high five myself, it was this moment of like intentional, just purposeful presence with myself.
That's beautiful, yeah.
And as I raised my hand and high five myself again, something else weird happened.
Okay.
It's impossible to have a negative thought when you're high fiving yourself.
I love this,
impossible.
I love this.
You cannot go, you suck.
Yeah.
You're a failure. You've like blown it. You're not going to do well in this meeting. Today's going to be, you can't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. The science on this is
what I love.
Crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay.
So here's what happens. You have a lifetime of giving other people high fives.
Yeah, you got a trigger now or something, don't you?
So what does a high five mean to you?
Good job. Awesome. Let's go, right?
Yes.
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 Yep.
You got a teammate that's going down, you
Yep.
give them a high five to pick them up.
Yep.
You got the biggest player of your life, you give them a high five to
Yep.
send them into the game.
Yep.
You've got a really awesome thing you're celebrating, a high five is
Yes.
what seals it.
Yes.
So you have a lifetime of positive programming.
Very good.
High-fiving other people.
This is awesome.
It is
Yep.
already stored right here in your basal ganglia.
Yeah.
And so when you do the physical motion that is tied to all the positive programming, Ed, you start to fuse it with your own reflection.
Oh my gosh.
You silence the inner critic, you silence decades of criticism, you shut the shame up, you literally reset the regret that you may feel. Any stress or anxiety that you feel about what's about to happen shuts up. And you cannot have negative thoughts
This is really good.
as your arm moves. Now, there's this whole field of psychology and neuroscience called neurobics. I didn't make the word up, but it's like neuroscience and aerobics.
Okay.
And the research shows that when you take an unexpected physical action, so, you know, we're used to high-fiving everybody else, but we're not used to high-fiving ourselves. So it's unexpected for your brain, so your prefrontal cortex engages. And you have a positive thought with it. You accelerate new neural pathway development. And so you're using the physical action that's unexpected, along with a lifetime of positive programming, to fundamentally rewire how you think about yourself.
This is good.
It's unbelievable.
This is good.
And so that's just the beginning.
Can I say something about that? I want to just validate a few things. One, I want to tell you that I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that you spent those 4 years either criticizing or being
40.
invisible. 40. Okay, excuse me, 40. That's what I meant to say. 40 years. And I can tell you, because we get this both a lot, we're, you know, obviously people that pour energy in other people. I just want to tell you that that's true for me too, and I want my audience to know that. I do a lot of criticism of myself. I've done it all my life, but I've really moved that more into invisibility. I don't look at myself. I don't think about myself. I do that as well. So just from a male perspective, I don't have the right boob lower than the left and all that other stuff you're going through.
If you lift on one side, you might.
I probably actually, at this point, the way I've been eating, I definitely do. But typically, I would like to think I don't. But I want to say that, I want to second that. And then the other thing is the massive power of what you're describing, because you're engaging both parts of the brain here. You're engaging the frontal cortex of the brain because it's a new move, so your brain can't conserve energy. It's got to actually engage. But you're also engaging all the hardwiring you've had for years and years and years of having this trigger of this high five. This is brilliant at both times. So I don't want to interrupt you on it.
I'm not even done, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
only just like scratched the surface on the science.
okay, so let's
you're
keep-
gonna freak the fuck out.
Okay.
Talk about max out.
Yeah,
You're going to
freak
max
the
out
freak
on this.
F out. Okay, so keep rolling on it, because you know me, I'm super
Yeah.
fascinated by this. So simple move, out of nothing, high five. All of a sudden, you've stumbled into some of the best neuroscience in the world that proves that this is a game changer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now there's even more. So think about a moment when you go to high five somebody and you guys kind of like, you know, like you have a shitty high five,
you
right?
miss it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
miss it. It's like
Yeah.
limp.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Me
limp.
too.
Okay.
Do it again. Right.
Yeah. Do it again. Why? Because a high five requires both presence and intention.
Yes, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so standing there with yourself, there's new research right out of Harvard that proves that if you take just 1 minute of an intentional reflection about who you're going to be today, it changes your level of productivity. It changes how you show up as a leader. It changes your ability to impact people, and it changes your effectiveness. Simply a single minute of setting an intention about who you're going to be today. And so when you stand in front of that mirror and you don't ignore yourself like Ed and my husband do, or criticize yourself like 91% of women do on default, and you take a moment to intentionally be with yourself, and you think about the day ahead, even if you've got a lot of stressful stuff going on, especially actually if you have a lot of stressful stuff going on, and you then raise your hand and you begin your day with this high five to yourself, you are sealing that intention that you believe in yourself and that you got it.
Very good.
It's incredible. There's also, I was just with Dr. Daniel Amen, who I know you know too, who's one of the world's leading experts on the brain.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the high five habit. And he was saying that the other thing that's happening, and this is why when you first start doing it, it's going to take 2 to 3 days to get through, and we're going to talk about the resistance, and we're going to talk about the fact that it feels weird and why.
Yeah.
Because there's a very deep and very sad reason why it feels weird and why you're going to have resistance to doing this. But by about day 3, what's going to happen is pretty crazy. You're either going to feel a major surge and boost in your mood, or you are going to have a very just kind of unnerving sense of calm. And the reason why is you have a lifetime of your nervous system experiencing joy when you celebrate people. I mean, think about going to, for me, you know, well, you're a Boston guy, the Red Sox. You go to the Fenway Park and they score, you're like, yes!
Naturally.
High-fiving
First
each
move
other.
you make.
Like, yes.
First move.
And so, literally, when you raise your hand like that, and it has been infused with so much celebration, your nervous system and your brain recognizes it, and you get what he calls a positive drip of dopamine, which either calms your brain and the stress, or it amplifies your mood to make you excited about what you're about to do.
My gosh.
Isn't this incredible?
It is incredible. Yeah, it is incredible. So are you suggesting, and we're going to go to the resistance in a minute, I'm just thinking through all the applications. The other thing is almost anything good happens in my life, especially anyone that ever played a sport, you bam, I am high-fiving anywhere I can get it and spread it. And it is a way of acknowledging yourself, but also acknowledging the other person. It's a massive state change. It's so, I love the fact that I introed you this way, not knowing we were going to talk about this, that you can take incredibly complicated things and distill them down to the most simple action you could take. This is the best example ever of that, because there's all this neuroscience behind all of it. You're like, look in the mirror and high five, right? So
which sounds like, oh, please.
It actually doesn't now, though. Like, we're 10 minutes in here and it's brilliant, right? So it doesn't sound that way to me now. So I want to go back. Physically, you're saying that what you're suggesting we all do, recommending, which I will begin to do immediately, is that upon waking, is there a time that you believe that this is applicable?
It's a good question. I personally think how you set your day up is how it ends up, and all the research also shows that your mood in your morning impacts productivity all day.
For sure.
So when you do small things to boost your mood, it has a documented impact on your ability to focus, to be productive, to believe in yourself. And so I personally would recommend that you habit stack it, that you pair it with something that you always do in the morning in the bathroom. So whether that's brushing your teeth, or whether it's flossing or shaving or whatever you might do, before or after, just before you leave that bathroom, you have to high-five yourself in the mirror. Okay. And so the simple rule is don't ever leave a bathroom without high-fiving yourself in the mirror. Send yourself back into the game of life, having your own back.
Okay. Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
No one else is going to ask you this. I'm just thinking through, because I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm in, 1,000%. Do you think that if you do it too repetitiously that it loses its charge? Or do you believe that if you do it more repetitiously that it actually gains a pattern with you that as a deeper trigger? Excellent
question. I'm realizing that I do the high five right before I leave the bathroom. So it's the last thing I do.
Okay.
It's always after I brush my teeth.
Okay.
But it's the last thing I do before I leave the bathroom. Now, I might come back in and put makeup on or do something else, but that first high five in the morning is important.
Okay.
And here, to answer your question, in the beginning, it becomes something you do. It becomes a practice that you're adding to your morning routine. Over time, it becomes part of who you are. Because here's the killer thing. Oh my God, I'm not even done explaining all the research. Because we've got to get into motivation. We've got to get into what research says about celebration, empowerment, support. We got to get into what the studies about the NBA teams say about high fives and championship teams. Like, I got so much to unpack here. It's incredible. So Oh God, what was I going to say? I was high-fiving in the...
Well, I want you to stay on one thought you have, because I don't want to move off of it, because we're going to
Yeah.
get into the research. I actually want to ask you about the resistance piece of it, because you said that it's powerful and a little bit sad, and that just stuck
Extremely
with me when
sad.
you said it. Because we can move into the NBA stuff, but beforehand, because one, my question is, don't outthink the room, right? Just take this principle and apply it.
Right.
That's the first thing. Don't overthink it. How do I do it? Where do I put my hand? Just give yourself a high five. You're not thinking about when you're giving another person a high five.
Right.
Open hand, closed hand, just give them a damn high five,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So let's not overthink the room. I know that 30% of everyone's like, exactly which hand, how quickly, how long do I hold it up for? Let's not do that, everybody, right? Let's apply the principle. And the second thing is, though, what is the resistance? Why is there resistance?
This is so sad.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two kind of buckets that it falls into.
Okay.
And the one bucket is that you believe you only deserve it if you've achieved something.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything worthy of a high five. I don't get a high five unless I hit the number on the scale, or I have that number in the bank account, or I land the job, or I find the person, or I do the thing. And by withholding celebration, support, empowerment, and encouragement from yourself, you're making it not only harder, I would say next to impossible, to make those things that you want a reality.
Very good.
The other reason why people feel a resistance, and this is also incredibly sad, is that your default in your mind is that you are not worthy of it.
Yes. Yeah.
That you have failed, or you're damaged, or you've been abused, or you have so much evidence stacked up about why you do not deserve to be celebrated,
Yeah.
that you actively withhold it from yourself.
Yep. Which is a metaphor for other parts of your life. You actually don't think you're worthy of this joy. I have to say to you, if you're hearing me under my breath during the interview, I'm going, this is very good, this is very good. You guys, they don't normally hear me talk like this, because I'm going to be honest with everybody. When I have someone on the show that's in our space or our world, there's usually, this is very good, or this is great. But when I'm listening to you right now, there's a part of me that envies you a little bit, because I think this is one of the most brilliant things I've heard since I've ever been involved in personal development or peak performance or life change. And so I'm just going, why didn't I think of this? This is so good, right? I also am like a high five person. I've done it with people think I'm going to do it with my kids all the time. I'm sort of
Oh, I love that you said this, dude.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because we're all good at giving everybody else a high five.
So everybody thinks they're extra good at it, but everybody's actually good at doing it. They just don't, they won't give themselves one because they're not worthy.
Or nobody's ever taught you how.
Yeah.
Like, we all know we're supposed to validate ourselves and love ourselves and accept ourselves. How the f do you do it?
Yeah. What are you doing actually to physically do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the thing is that we're amazing at cheering for our favorite sports teams and downloading albums and planning birthday parties and doing extra work for colleagues who are stressed out and visiting people that are sick. We not only fall short, what I have found now researching this for a year is that most of us do the opposite. We withhold it from ourselves.
Yep. Yep. I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I do the two things you said. If I'm in a space by myself, I am typically being somewhat critical of myself, evaluating what I could have done. There's one thing we all do too. I could have done this better. That's actually self-criticism. I used to think, no, I'm growing. I'm evaluating myself. I'm self-aware. Nah, it's usually criticism.
Yeah.
It's usually criticism. And then because I avoid that guy, I do the invisible thing. I've literally gotten ready in front of hundreds of mirrors in my life and really never looked at myself. Really never looked at the man looking back at me. Like, I wonder sometimes, I've looked at myself so little, I don't know if everybody can relate to this. I don't know if I would recognize me in a crowd if I were there. And that's a pretty sad thing to admit as somebody who's, probably impacted a few people in their life positively, right? Like, I pay so little attention to me and give myself so little of just this gift. For me, I'm thinking about this in the morning. For sure, I'm going to do it. I'm also thinking about before I go out and give a talk somewhere, just be able to find myself in a bathroom, just give myself the gift of it.
Yeah.
This is a gift you can give yourself.
Exactly.
That is so simple. That
Do you know why
deserve
your
it.
mind is popping off?
Yeah.
Because you actually understand so much about the brain.
Yeah.
Like I can see
Yeah.
like your
I am.
neurons firing as you're connecting the dots and being like, this actually reshapes your RES.
Correct.
Like this is like something that is a tool.
Yeah.
Like one of the other things that I think that you're gonna really, really love about this is that I wanna tell you about 2 other studies.
Okay.
Okay, because your audience, my audience, really into peak performance, into achieving goals, into, and I think when you're somebody that's driven like you and I are, you already said it. We have a negativity bias because we're so driven that we've developed a voice that's really hard on us.
Yep.
We don't see the 100 things that went right today. We see the one frickin' thing that didn't work.
Absolutely.
And then we look at that and we call that, of course, it's one of the reasons why we're successful. But I'm here to tell you, it's also why you're not as joyous
Yes.
as you could be as you're having this success.
Yes.
Because you are focused on the shit that's wrong instead of having micro celebrations and moments of joy and drip dopamine, as Dr. Amen says, throughout the day as you're seeing the things that are going right.
Yep. I think the robbing of that of yourself will eventually cause a frying and burnout.
For
If
sure.
you continue to take actions and get no dopamine hits for doing any of them, at one point you just reach the conclusion that it's not as worth doing as it used to be.
Yeah,
And this
exactly.
is one way to give yourself that hit. My brain is firing thinking about all the applications
Yeah,
of this.
yeah.
It is. So give me another study. You're going to say
So,
another study.
so there's 2 really cool studies that I know you're going to love. So, and this goes into the power, the motivational power of encouragement, support, and celebration.
Okay.
Because I think the myth of like tough love and being hard on yourself is a motivational force. It's
I know it is.
based on the research, it doesn't work. Even if you look at Goggins, what does he do when he is really up against the wall, right? He's got that cookie jar thing.
That's right.
That's a positive memory.
Positive memory. That's right. Yep.
So even that
Yep.
is in the form of encouragement.
Yep.
And so here's the study with the NBA teams. They took a look at NBA teams in a couple across various seasons. You can predict who is going to be in the championships based on the teams that have the most number of high fives, fist bumps, and backpats in the preseason.
In the preseason.
Because they build trust and partnership. And you can also predict who's going to rank the worst.
Based on the fewest?
Yes, because those players are selfish and in for themselves. And so there is a partnership and a trust that this builds. And what I'm here to tell you is you do this every morning, you will build partnership and trust with yourself.
I love it.
You are the most important person in your life. Your relationship with yourself is the foundation of every single relationship that you have. You better start fucking paying attention to it and looking yourself in the eyes. And if you continue to do this, you are a man with an enormous heart and soul.
Thank you.
You will, I don't even see myself physically. I'm in touch with the being that's in this like skin sack. Seriously.
Were you prior to this?
I don't think so. I think I was so busy and sort of dysregulated in my nervous system. And, you know, my success was born out of, at least in this chapter of my life, another rock bottom moment where we were on the verge of losing absolutely everything. And I know that you've been there too, facing bankruptcy. I was drinking myself into the ground. Chris and I were fighting like crazy. While I have fixed things on the outside, I never actually knew how to connect with myself on the inside. I absolutely was chasing all those things outside, the likes, the validation, the external achievement stuff, in order to prove that I was worthy of love. The high five habit, and that's just the beginning. I mean, this high five in the mirror is just a Trojan horse. I mean, the whole book is about small habits based in science that teach you how to fulfill your own needs emotionally and how to support, encourage, and empower yourself through the ups and downs in life. How to flip jealousy, for example, into inspiration. How to go from a really low mindset into what I call a high five attitude when you feel insecure or people pleasing. And so the high five in the mirror is the beginning of.
I want to go to this jealousy into inspiration thing, but I want to say something to you first. I'm loving this, by the way. we better be careful because we're going to go 5 hours, and I know neither one of us can. I want to so badly. I realized a few things about myself. and that is that I struggle with being present with other people sometimes. Sometimes. Like, it was interesting when you and I met in the dinner that we had with some great friends. What was so wonderful was how present all of us were that evening, and none of us wanted that conversation to end. But I'm not very rarely present with myself. I think one of the gifts of this is it causes presence with oneself. It's not just the high five for me, but it's a moment of presence with me. And so I just want to acknowledge some of you that all have that. The second thing you said that I really connect with, we're so similar, is that for me, this idea of validating or earning love or bliss or these conditional things wired into me as a kid. I got more attention and significance when I achieved something. So that's true for the vast majority of people that are wired like you and I are. And when you do get to a point where you understand you're worthy of those things without having to achieve them just by your being, is a real breakthrough day. I have to think that one of the hidden gifts of this is just that in and of itself.
1000%.
It's not conditional. So, but go ahead. I wanted to step back away from that just for a second because I want to validate what you were saying. But you said this idea, these other small habits. What I have found in my life the last 5 years, even at the highest levels, is there is more jealousy and gossip than I really ever realized in people's lives. And I think it's one of the hidden killers of joy in people's lives is this inability not to gossip or to have jealousy towards other people. You know, the whole hater thing's been covered ad nauseum in personal development.
Right.
But the actual gossip or jealousy piece, this is where it really comes from. So what can somebody do to flip
this is
that?
good. You're gonna die when you hear this one.
Okay. Okay.
Well, gossiping, I like that. What's that quote that small minds talk about people and big minds talk about ideas?
Yes, that's it.
So, like, one rule that will make you a better person, and it's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Is to try, at least with your family and your friends, only talk about the people who are in the room. Like, and so if somebody starts talking about somebody else, and it's one thing to talk about somebody out of concern or just sort of that reporting in that family members tend to do about one another.
Yeah.
When it strays into that judgment,
we all know when it's there. Yeah.
Like, just say, hey, you know, why don't we just, they're not here.
Right.
Why don't we just give them the benefit of the doubt and let's just talk about the people that are here. I don't see you guys enough.
Yeah.
Let's not waste our time talking about them.
Great advice.
Like, it's just a great way without like kind of me with somebody to just like direct it back.
Great advice. Move it away.
So that's one way that I have tried to curb gossiping in my own life. But here's the coolest thing about jealousy.
Okay.
Embrace it. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
You are only jealous of the things you authentically want. So, for example, for a long time in my life, when we were struggling financially, I was super jealous of anybody that had a big house or was putting on an addition, and I didn't know what to do with my jealousy, so it would consume me. I tell the story in this book of going into a friend's brand new, house at a time in our life where Chris's restaurants were failing and I was unemployed and we were like profoundly in debt. It nearly made me self-combust in this woman's kitchen, okay? And how did I deal with my jealousy? Because I didn't know what it was. We get in the car, and what do you think I did for my poor husband? Why aren't you more successful? I should have married somebody in finance like she did. Why are we in this situation? Like, you just like aim it at people, right? Because you don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
My jealousy was not about a house. When I finally started to unpack it, it was about my ambition.
Very true.
And so you cannot be jealous of something you don't want. If I believe that jealousy is blocked inspiration.
I've never heard that before.
It is blocked by your fear. It is blocked by insecurity. It is blocked by you have this deep and like you said it earlier, I'm really jealous of this idea, Mel. I wish I had come up with it. You have a new book coming out. I'm not going to say what the title is, but here's what I want you to take away from it. There's something about the simplicity of the idea that makes you jealous. That is what your inspiration is trying to get you to pay attention to.
Very good.
So I'm jealous of you. You got this show. You have the discipline to do it all the time. You're translating it into a podcast. I've been sitting on my ass talking about doing a podcast for 4 years. What the old Mel would do before I understood jealousy is because it's blocked by insecurity, I would then tell myself a story. You're too late. It's already done. There's not enough room for you. If you do it, you're a copycat. All of that just blocks what you really want.
Really true.
Pay attention to your jealousy and stop and unpack it. What really is it about that person? Is it their marriage? Is it the way that they're being treated? Is it how they take care of themselves? What is it about financial freedom and anybody that has it that makes you feel jealous? Really get to the core of what feels right for you and then get to work on it.
Our audience is primarily millennials, and we love to, hey, let's call it for what it is. We love things instantly, right? We're in an on-demand world. So you're saying that people that take part in this challenge and, you know, high five, even yourself, right, who live this out, you're seeing instant results.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
Instant. It's absolutely instant, and it's documented, and it's scientifically backed. And that's why this idea is so freaking exciting. And it's why this book is exploding, because people are experiencing it instantly. Like, I literally was just on the Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne and DJ Envy and Angela have all now tried. They're posting about it nonstop. Their audience is posting about it. The research is crazy. And let me explain why, because there's so much common sense behind this. So let's just talk about a high five. When you high five somebody else, Matt, what does just the high five that you give to a teammate or a friend, what are you communicating when you high five somebody else?
Oh, great job. Congrats. Something along those lines.
Correct. If a teammate blows a goal or a field kick or a free throw and you high five them, it's like, shake it off. I still believe in you. We got this. Get your head back in the game. Come on now. It says, I believe you. I love you. All this stuff. It's this encouraging, empowering, universal gesture. Even if it's in a culture that you grew up in a culture where high fives are not that common, you've still seen them in sporting events. You've still seen teachers giving it to kids in videos that go viral. You have seen these gestures of encouragement. So this is the power of the high five habit. The programming is already in your brain, and it's also in your nervous system. Have you ever high-fived somebody and thought, I hate you?
No, I have not.
Have you ever high-fived somebody and thought, I hope you lose?
No, never.
Fuck off. No, of course not. It is neurologically impossible to think something negative while you're high-fiving yourself. Your brain is not designed to do it, because your brain for your entire life has seen this gesture and gone, oh, we do that to people we love. We do that to people we believe in. We do that to people we celebrate. And so reason number one, why the high five habits results are instant, is because you're not actually trying to learn anything new. You are unlocking programming that exists in your mind, and you're just aiming it at yourself. That's why it works instantly. The second reason why it works instantly is because your brain doesn't know the difference between me high-fiving Matt or me high-fiving Mel Robbins, because your brain recognizes the high five as a habit loop. The physical motion is what triggers the habit of self-acceptance, celebration, encouragement, and love. So the second your hand goes up to do the gesture, you can't think. Your subconscious mind takes over and brings forward all the programming that it has attached to the physical action of a high five through your whole life. And one of the things that the world's leading experts on the brain have said conclusively is that when anybody else has ever given you a high five, your brain gives you a dopamine release. When you give yourself a high five, you give yourself a dopamine release. Dopamine helps you focus. It makes you feel better. It's the happy chemical in your brain. And it is the same thing that releases when, you have an orgasm, when you do drugs, when you win the lottery. You are literally releasing dopamine for yourself when you high five yourself. That's what increases your mood. That's why a lot of people laugh when they do it for the first time. The other thing that your body does for you naturally because of programming is your nervous system is wired for celebratory energy. And, what do you do instinctually when you cross a finish line, Matt?
You get excited.
Yeah, you raise your hands, right? What do you do when you wave somebody? You raise your hands. Hug, raise your hands. Your favorite team scores, you raise your hands. High five, you raise your arms.
Right.
It's celebratory. So when you go
Mm.
to do it to yourself, even on the lowest mornings, your nervous system gives you a little jolt. You know, you might not be like, yeah, this is awesome that I'm going to go into work and have to fire somebody today. But your nervous system goes, come on now, pick it up. You're going to
Right.
be okay. You can do this. Like, it's absolutely incredible. This is why it works immediately for people.
Okay, so even just the physical of raising your hand up is triggering
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's incredible. Now, Mel, I need you to talk to me about the word habit, because that word scares me. It does,
Why?
truthfully.
Why?
You know why? So here's the thing: how I achieved, and we talked about 75 hard, right? How I achieved that, and how I have achieved other goals in the past, is I've made them public. Because if I make them public and I put that in front of the public eye, I myself, I can't let myself fail. Right? If I do
Yep.
something behind closed doors and I try to make a habit of meditating or reading every day or whatever, exercise, whatever it is, I fail at it. I'm a human,
Okay.
right? That
Yep.
word scares, and I know I'm not the only one. So, what's your advice? What's the secret to actually making it a habit?
Well, I'm going to say two things about this. Number one, you actually do practice the science of habits because you have an Uber habit. And your Uber habit is make the shit public that I am afraid I'm not going to do. That's a habit.
Right. It is. You're right.
Okay. So habits do work for you. You just have one that works for everything. And so you use it. The second thing I'm going to say about habits is that most people focus on the wrong part of a habit loop. So every habit is comprised, as you probably know, of three required elements. There's a trigger, there's a behavior pattern you repeat, and then there is a reward. Okay. Most people think a habit is repeating the behavior, when the truth is the real power of habits and the ability to make them stick is understanding the power is in the trigger and in the reward, not in the behavior pattern. So let's take the high five habit, for example. I recommend and for a number of reasons, which we can unpack, that you make the high five habit a absolutely critical, non-negotiable part of your morning routine. I want you to do it right after you brush your teeth, because we know based on research, when you stack a new habit like the high five in the mirror with an old habit that you already have in your subconscious brain, brushing your teeth, it's easier for your brain to pair those two together. So that's number one. Number two, just hoping that you remember to do it isn't enough when it comes to habits. You need a trigger. The trigger is the thing that cues your mind to do it. So I recommend that people put just a Post-it note on the mirror. And the Post-it note could be blank. It could have a tracing of your hand. It could say high five. It could say I love you. It could say I believe in you. It could be anything as a message on this. It could say go get them. It could say today's going to be a great day. It could be let's do this. Stick a Post-it note on your mirror, and the Post-it note becomes an environmental trigger. So you're brushing your teeth. And you're like, oh, there's a Post-it note. I got a high five. That's the powerful part. The gesture is just the behavior I'm repeating. The reward in the case of the high five habit is the dopamine releasing, the fact that I'm going to feel good. Now, here's how the habit loop gets locked in. You'll know that you are really, truly creating a powerful habit when you see the trigger and you don't think about the behavior, you think about the reward. So when I see the Post-it note on my mirror, I don't think about high-fiving myself. I think about how good it feels when I'm done. I'll give you another example. I always reward my exercise with a treat. This may sound a little odd, but I always reward my exercise with a treat. So I'm going to explain the habit loop that I have for exercise. So remember, you always need a trigger. This is the cue that makes you remember to do it. It could be an alarm in your phone. It could be anything. For exercise, my trigger for exercising is I always lay my exercise clothes out on the floor of my closet.
Okay.
That way they are there like a freaking trap. I don't have to think about exercising. I wake up, I walk into the closet. There are this morning it was red tights and a black exercise jog top thing and a sweatshirt and some sticky socks because I went to like a bar class. And I immediately see the trigger on the floor, no thinking involved. And I go, fuck, I literally don't want to exercise. Fuck, there they are. So there's my exercise clothes. I don't have to think. It's a trigger. Damn it. There's my habit loop begins, the trigger. Do you know what I think about? I don't think about the bar class. I immediately think about the breakfast burrito that I'm eating afterwards, because my reward for going to that particular bar class is to go to this little like breakfast taco place right next door. If I'm going to go to yoga, I think about a latte that I'm going to have at a coffee shop nearby. Your brain literally skips over the pattern and goes straight to the thing that you're going to get. And for those of you that have a favorite coffee shop that you go to after the gym, I guarantee you while you're in the gym, you're thinking about the coffee you're going to order. That's the reward. Your brain seals this into a loop. The trigger makes my brain think, oh my God, I'm about to get the coffee. And you forget about the gym piece, which is so cool because if you think about going to the gym, you're like, I don't feel like it.
Now, taking all of this into consideration, if on a subconscious level, we don't feel like we deserve that high five, is that just like a participation trophy? I know you talk about it in the book. I'm just curious for the people that are listening, and obviously for myself here too.
No, this is profound. This is the most profound part of the whole thing.
Okay.
Actually, this is the biggest thing of the high five habit because you don't think you deserve it.
Right.
You have been trained to believe a lie. And the lie is that unless you have the $1 million in the bank or the world's greatest love affair or an incredible body, or you're driving that car, or you live in that neighborhood, or you've sold your company, unless you have that thing, you haven't earned a high five. Mm-hmm. And I want you to break that belief apart and to understand that you deserve and need, and this is the most important part, you need support, empowerment, and celebration every single day just to get through the day. You do not earn this. The very fact that you are alive and breathing is why you need a high five every day. This is not an award you get. This is a benefit of being human. And so let me explain this because the resistance is a really big thing. There are only two reactions that people have, Matt, when they hear us talking about the high five habit and they take the dare we're going to tell them, give us 5 fucking days. That's all we're asking. 5 lousy days. Your dreams, your happiness, your contentment, your purpose, you deserve 5 days. What if this is the one thing that's been missing? Because I believe it is. What if all of those big goals and big dreams just needed the high five habit so you knew the secret to propelling yourself toward them? What if the secret to healing your trauma? What if the secret to finally forgiving yourself for all the shit you did while you were trying to survive? What if it was the high five habit? Give me 5 lousy days to prove it to you because I know that it is. This is the thing that's been missing from every human being's life because none of us have ever been taught how to support, empower, and celebrate ourselves every step of the way. So you will either stand in front of your mirror, because this is what's going to happen. You are going to brush your teeth tomorrow morning, get the gunk out of your mouth so you don't spread bad breath everywhere. Then you're going to stand in front of your mirror. And step number 1 is the hardest part for people. Look at the human being in the mirror. That's not your reflection. There's 2 human beings in the bathroom every morning. There's you, And there's the human being in the mirror who is trying their best. And they are so tired of you beating them up. They are so tired of you focusing on the negative. They are so tired of the criticism. They need you. They need you to wake up. They need you to start being kinder and more supportive and more empowering and more encouraging. They need you. For most people, looking in the mirror is the hardest part. Based on our research, Matt, 50% of men and women don't even do that part. Can't do that part.
Why?
The reason why is every single morning when you stand before yourself, you drag your entire past in between you and your reflection.
Okay.
So if you have, survived some stuff, if you've been abused or neglected or abandoned or had your heart broken or experienced constant discrimination, bullshit, if you have been neglected, if you face poverty, all that stuff you've survived, there are so many people that look at that and see evidence that they're damaged or unworthy or unlovable, or that life is never going to work out, or you got such a late start, or that you are behind, or the odds are against you, or whatever. And so the resistance to seeing yourself or raising your hand is the fact that you are judging yourself based on your past, and you withhold the very support and love and encouragement that you need because of all the stuff you've survived. If anything, if you're still here breathing, trying to get through the day in spite of all that crap, you deserve a high five.
Right.
You got to celebrate that shit that you're still here. That's number one. The other reason why so many people cannot even look in the mirror is because of all the stuff you did. And if you're human, you have things that you regret. You've cheated, you've lied, you've stolen, you've squandered opportunity, you hurt people, you hurt yourself, all stuff you did, addiction, all of it while you were just trying to survive crap you didn't understand. Things that you would easily forgive Matt or Mel Robbins for, but you stand in judgment of yourself and you withhold that forgiveness. You withhold that compassion. You withhold that understanding that you need in order to heal. And so, not looking at yourself, Matt, that is a habit of self-rejection. And it is a part of everybody's morning routine. Because even if you can look at yourself, what we look at are the things we need to fix. What we see are the things that we think that are wrong or that we don't like. And this is everybody. And so whether you ignore yourself or can't look at yourself or you pick yourself apart in the mirror, this is a habit of self-rejection. And then you practice that every morning. This is a habit that's gotten so deeply rooted in your brain. This is why you step out into the world and you see everything you're doing wrong at work. This is why you have things to say, but you don't share them, which is another form of self-rejection. This is why you have boundaries that you need to express with people, but you won't, another form of self-rejection. This is why you morph and mold yourself to fit in with the cool people, another form of self-rejection. And so you just reject yourself all day long. And so back to your original question about validation and bringing it in-house. What I really want you to do with the high five habit is I want you to have an awakening. I want you to realize that today could be the first day of an entirely different life. A life where you see yourself as a human being that deserves support and that deserves acknowledgement and that deserves respect. And day one of you learning how to give those things to yourself, how to make that your default. So when you stand in front of that mirror and you feel that resistance because your current default is to reject yourself, it will feel weird to raise your hand and high five yourself. That's good. If it feels weird, it means it's working, because it means we are breaking the thing you normally do and plowing a new neural pathway response to your reflection. So if it's weird, great. That means it's working. The second thing that you'll notice is that as you go to raise your hand, you can be standing there going, this is stupid. Why did I listen to Matt and Mel? I'm a failure. Like I didn't even go to the gym today and I'm high five. What the hell is this? As you can think all that, but as you go to raise your hand, your mind goes quiet because the hand and the gesture is a trigger that then grabs the positive programming that says, I hear you. I see you. I got you. Then you'll feel the dopamine. Then you'll feel the energy boost. And then you go, holy shit, this works. That's what happens.
So I can attest to it. First and foremost, I had pizza, Chinese food, and cookies yesterday, but I gave myself a high five this morning. And you know what? As I did it, I smiled. And I can't tell you how often I smile at myself in a mirror. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And one thing I loved actually that you put in the book was how you ran the marathon in New York City.
Yeah.
And the energy that you get from when people give you high fives. I love that. I've ran it. Not the marathon, I've ran tunnels to towers and things like that. Amazing stuff. But you feel that when you high five yourself. And I'm not saying this for brownie points either. Like I literally felt the energy. So I just wanted to throw that out
Matt,
there.
I know
it is incredible.
for brownie points. Dude, I'm not sitting here saying I've had this solo experience. Everybody trust me. I don't give a shit if people don't believe me. And let me tell you why. I am standing shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of thousands of other people and the world's leading experts saying, no, this actually works because you're wired to have this work. You are born hardwired for love and celebration. A lot of people, Matt, not only smile, but then they cry. And the reason why they cry is because there is this deep longing to be seen, heard, and celebrated. Your true nature is a human being who deserves love and support. And so many people cry when they first start doing this because there's a sense that you're finally coming back home to who you truly are. It's powerful stuff. And, another thing that I'll tell, the folks that are listening is that, chapter 2 of the book is nothing but research. Because look, I know on its face, it sounds stupid. And I'm super passionate because I know the science here. And there was this incredible research study that people love that, there's a big article about it in the Wall Street Journal in 2011, if you Google this. Researchers at Berkeley looked at NBA teams and they wanted to know what are the habits that all of the teams with the winningest records at the end of a season have. And they were surprised because what they discovered is that the NBA teams that have the best records all share one interesting habit in the preseason. The teams that have the most fist bumps, pats on the back, and high fives during the preseason go on to have the best performance in terms of wins for the whole season. And the same holds true for the teams who perform the worst. During the preseason, they have the least amount of pats on the back and fist bumps and high fives. And the answer is why? Why is this a fact? And the Wall Street Journal article is really interesting because they're like, yeah, we read this study. We didn't believe it. And then we actually watched the tapes and did the numbers. And they're right. The reason why is a high five is more than a gesture. It communicates trust and partnership. And that trust and partnership fuels momentum and inspiration and motivation. And I'm here to tell you, you will experience the same thing with yourself if you start to raise your hand exactly where you are. Look, your life may suck right now. You may be going through a divorce. You may have been fired from a job. You may be facing bankruptcy and nearly $1 million in debt like I was a decade ago. You may have just learned that somebody cheated on you. You may have been told no from your dream school. You may have lost the election. When you raise your hand to your reflection on those mornings, it's not going like, yeah, it's awesome. It's saying, I get it. It's freaking hard. I get it. And guess what? You still got this. You're going to be okay.
Now, with an NBA team, like that's an incredible example, right? That research there. There are, and this is actually the premise of the show, like exposing the quote unquote secrets to success. Like we know what they are. They're out there. Mel Robbins is putting them out in books. You're hopping on podcasts, amplifying them, so on and so forth.
Yep.
But people don't actually, and when I say people, myself, because I could be doing 1,000,001 things for myself to level up in life, we don't necessarily apply it. So an MBA team, for instance, they have this research. Why wouldn't they implement it more? I'm just curious and I'm using the MBA as an example here because you just gave it. Why don't we take those secrets and actually apply them? Like the application isn't always there.
Because we don't think we're worthy.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that, like at the bottom, like I know because I've been doing the research now.
Yeah.
I've been helping people for a decade. The fundamental problem in everybody's life is a deep sense of self-hatred or a lack of worthiness or a just crushing and relentless habit of rejecting yourself, focusing on the negative. These are all learned thinking patterns and learned behaviors. And I'm here to tell you that when you attack the core problem and you break the habit of hating yourself and you break the habit of focusing on what's wrong and you break the habit of judging everything that you do, every text you send, every email you write, everything you just said at work, when you break the habit of the grinding criticism and you replace it with a habit of support, encouragement, forgiveness, self-kindness, magical shit happens because you will have discovered the secret to motivation. You will never feel motivated when you're beating yourself down. You will always feel motivated when you feel lifted up. This is why the best part of running a marathon or tunnels to towers or anything is not the actual race. It's the fact that strangers are clapping for you and high-fiving you. It's that encouragement that empowers you to keep moving forward. And we've all like somehow gotten into this mess where we believe that we can somehow beat the shit out of ourselves and change our lives. Like this is why diets don't work. People go on diets because they hate how they look. They don't go on diets because they feel that they deserve to be healthier. Like when you're fixing something about yourself, you're coming from a place of making yourself wrong. Nobody feels motivated when they're berated. You feel motivated when you're being cheered for exactly where you are. We don't stand as spectators in the race and cross our arms and go, Matt, I'm not clapping for you. Look at your freaking split time, moron. But we do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, the bottom line is you've just never been taught how to do this. And so, when you attack the core problem that robs you of happiness, robs you of inspiration, robs you of your dreams, robs you of joy and contentment and peace and purpose, and that core problem is self-hatred. When your whole business and pursuit of success becomes part of your self-expression, and it's driven by something that's deep in your heart, like it is for me now, making an impact, rather than chasing something or needing to prove something, which is all a make wrong. When you bring it back in-house from a place of feeling accepted and supported and aligned with your true nature, it's unbelievable what happens. Like for me, at 13 years ago, my husband and I were nearly $1 million in debt. We were about to lose our house. He had gone into the restaurant business and we had secured everything with our life savings and our home. And the first little pizza joint did great. And then as they tried to expand, things got terrifying. And then the first housing crisis hit in 2008. And I found myself in a situation I never thought I'd be in. I was 41 years old. We had 3 kids under the age of 10. We were 800 grand in debt. I couldn't buy groceries. Every credit card maxed out. The home equity line maxed out. Liens on the house. I mean, just absolutely terrifying. And it was during that moment of my life that I created the 5-second rule. And this rule, you just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you move. And it cuts through procrastination and self-doubt. It kind of silences the hesitation that holds you back. And I became a machine. Like it was life-changing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, out of bed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pick up the phone and make the cold call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, turn off the TV and get to work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, don't snap at the kids. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, don't drink the alcohol. And over the course of the last 10 years, I have become wildly successful, more successful than I ever thought I'd ever be, made more money than I ever thought possible. And yet, when I looked in the mirror, Matt, I still saw a person I hated. I saw all the things I wasn't doing. I saw, the 5-second rule is a self-published book. It was the number one audio self-published. It's still the number one self-published audiobook in the world. Not enough. I've sold 2 million copies of that self-published book in 4 years, and it's been translated into 36 languages. Not bad for somebody with dyslexia and ADHD who self-published.
That's incredible.
Not enough. I launched a daytime syndicated talk show with Sony Pictures Television. My dream since being a little girl, taped it at the CBS Broadcast Center. Not enough. Published the, High Five Habit. It's doing extraordinarily well. And I have a totally different relationship to it. And here's why. In April of 2020, when life was punching me in the face, I discovered that high-fiving myself in the mirror silenced the critic and taught me how to see myself as a human being that is worthy of support and celebration and love. It has broken apart the relentless self-hatred and the relentless focus on what's not going right. And it has reprogrammed my mind to focus on what is going well. And when you can focus on the little things that are going great, it makes you start to see the bigger things that can go great. And when you wake up and you feel a sense of momentum, because you know that no matter what happens today, I have my own back. No matter who doesn't invite me to a party or what bestseller list I don't make or what crappy things somebody says about me, yeah, it might sting, but it doesn't change the fact that for the first time in 53 years, I like myself. I respect myself. I encourage myself. It doesn't mean I'm a narcissistic asshole. It doesn't mean I think I'm better than anybody else. The High Five Habit is about doubling down on compassion for yourself and support for yourself and kindness toward yourself. And that changes everything, because your relationship with yourself is what determines what your life feels like. If you look in the mirror and you see what's wrong, you will step out into the world and experience what's wrong. If you look in the mirror and you hate yourself, you will inevitably and disrespect yourself and reject yourself. You will step out into the world and you will allow other people to disrespect you because you just did it in the bathroom with yourself. When you learn as a habit to look in the mirror and treat yourself with respect and compassion, to treat yourself as if you like yourself, and the gesture alone, I don't even want you to say anything. I just want you to raise your hand because your mind recognizes this gesture as something you only do to somebody you actually like and respect. When you start to demonstrate that to yourself every single morning, it changes how you show up in the world. There isn't a damn thing anybody could say about me or to me that would change the fact that I respect myself. Because every morning when I stand before myself in the mirror, I show myself that I respect myself by high-fiving myself for where I am. I'm still here. I'm breathing. I'm going to try again today.
That's powerful.
I really want to talk about your new book, The High Five Habit. So I've been reading it and I have been loving it. And I have some really interesting takes on British people and high fives that I want to put to you as well, because it made me laugh. But can you just first of all explain to everybody what it means to live a high five life?
Yeah, I think it's very simple. So a high five, let's just talk about the high five gesture, right? And this is why the habit of high-fiving your reflection every morning in the mirror after you brush your teeth is a game changer. And it's because there's so much science and neural association attached to a high five. Because whether or not you are a cynical Brit or you're a very positive American, we all have witnessed high fives in sport our entire lives. As little kids, we've probably received them. You've given them to runners in the London Marathon. You have experienced the slap of somebody's hand and you feel the jolt of energy that hits you. And so all of the programming is already in your mind and it's all positive. I mean, Emma, you've never high-fived somebody and thought, you suck. I hate you. You're going to lose. God doesn't love you. You're spiritually dead. You don't think those things. Your brain's association and your nervous system's association, your spirit speaks in the language of high fives. Your spirit is energizing. Your spirit is celebratory. Your spirit believes in you. Your spirit is empowering and encouraging. And I know that to be true because if you look at your true nature when you were born, when you were 1, 2, 3, 4, and you saw yourself in your mirror, your spirit came alive. You loved the person you saw in the mirror. So a high five embodies belief and celebration and empowerment and encouragement and belief and resilience. All those things, partnership, trust, these beautiful, juicy, amazing things. A high five life in its simplest form is a life that you look forward to living.
I love
like
that.
Just like in sport, right? If you're huddling with your team and you're about to go play some kind of match, you always begin not by saying today's going to suck and you're really going to blow the play and you look terrible in that uniform. No, you set an intention and then you high five your mates because you're about to go into a game that is worth playing. And I'm here to tell you that a high five life is a life that you're living that feels like one that's worth doing your best for. And so I love this idea of adding a high five to your morning routine, because what we know based on research is your mood in the morning impacts your productivity all day long. And there is a moment in your current morning routine that all the prayer in the world, all the manifesting, all the gratitude journaling cannot change for the better. And it is a moment where you criticize or reject yourself. And I want you to start practicing a habit that will teach you how to accept, empower, and love yourself instead.
Yes, love that. And I loved the energy that comes from the book as well, because although it seemed really simple when I started reading the book, and I was like, how hard could this be? Like, just high five yourself every day, Emma, how hard this could be. And I do a lot of mirror work anyway. So I was like, no, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to do this for 5 days, like Mel says, and see what I get from it. And it was really interesting because not just only did I do the high five, I actually said a positive affirmation as well. I was like, you've got this, like, go and smash today. Like, today's your day. And I thought for me, that was such a beautiful extension of mirror work because it was something I hadn't tried before. And it was, like you say, that touch moment, even though it's a mirror, where you're like, I'm there for me. I've got this. So it was really interesting. And I definitely want to stick to it as well, because I think everybody who's doing mirror work should absolutely try this as well.
Well, and here's the thing. It's more than even sort of the physical demonstration, which in the mirror work, part of what's getting activated is you are activating your mirror neurons and you're tapping into behavioral activation therapy, where your brain and mind sees you treating the human being in the mirror as if you respect them, as if you believe in them, as if you love them. And when your brain sees you taking the actions that are consistent with the type of person that you want to become, it accelerates you becoming that person. And so the other reason why you're feeling something is that the high five itself gives you something that the mirror work doesn't. You get a drip of dopamine because the neural association with a high five is the same whether I'm high-fiving you, Emma, or you're high-fiving yourself. The physical motion makes your brain trigger dopamine. That's why most of us smile when we do it, or we laugh. The other thing that you're feeling when you feel a little bit more energized is you're feeling the celebratory programming in your nervous system, giving you a little bit of energy. You know, when you cross a finish line in a race, what do?
Well, I celebrate. I'm like, yes.
Do you see what you did with your arms? You raised your arms.
Mm-hmm.
So when our favorite team scores, we raise our arms. When we cross a finish line, we raise our arms. When we yell surprise at a friend's birthday, we raise our arms. When we say hello, we raise our arm. When you go to high five, you raise your arm. There's energy programmed from a lifetime of doing it in your nervous system. So the physical act of doing it taps into that. So it's not just the act of looking at yourself, which, by the way, you do mirror work, and that's incredible. 50% of men and women can't even look in the mirror. In fact, they won't, because they don't like themselves. They don't like where they are in life. They don't like what they look like. And if you cannot look at yourself in the mirror, that is a habit of self-rejection. The look away is criticism. It's judgment. And so for most people, simply looking in the mirror to do this is the hardest part. Mm-hmm. And then for the rest of us that are not practicing mirror work, and even for some people who do, your subconscious, because you've been doing it for decades, is to actually see yourself and focus on the things you don't like that you need to fix. The act of putting on makeup and doing your hair isn't additive. It's like, oh God, I got to fix this and I look like crap and I got to put. And so it's coming from a critical rejection space. And so for everybody that struggles with people pleasing, with wanting validation, with needing a boyfriend or a girlfriend in order to feel worthy with yourself, the actual reason why you're seeking the approval of others is because you every single morning look in the mirror and reject yourself. That's why you're putting your validation outside yourself. I want you to bring it back in house. I want you every morning to do a physical action that demonstrates, I believe in you, I see you, I got you, we're in it. Whether you say the word or not, the gesture alone communicates it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But one thing I will say is when I was reading your book, I was like, gosh, what is my attitude around high fives? And I started to notice something, and I looked back to my childhood, like I was at school in the 90s, and I was like, God, I really don't think British people high five each other. Like, I was really thinking about in school, do I remember high fiving like our teams, sports days? I really don't remember it that much. And then I think, actually, even in my adulthood, do I remember high-fiving a lot of people? And I'm quite a high-fivey person, but I honestly think as Brits, are really like, ooh, high five, that's a bit American. Ooh, that's a bit cheesy. And I feel like there's that mentality around it. And even when I go to like high-five my friends, it's not regular, but when I do, they almost look at me like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Emma? Like, I think, like, where do we get this from?
Well, I think that being cynical gets socialized into you. Having a stiff upper lip, being a little bristly, being resigned. It's interesting. A bunch of the podcasts in the UK, have all asked, well, what do you say to the cynical Brits? And I say, don't do it. Don't do it. If criticizing, beating yourself down, thinking something sounds stupid and it's beneath you, if that actually works, you would be $1 million. You'd have $1 million. You'd drive a Range Rover. You'd be happy. You'd have a deeply spiritual life, and you would be living your dream. So if being cynical works for you, keep doing it. But I'm here to tell you it actually doesn't. All the research shows that being cynical in life makes it harder. The resistance to trying something new makes it harder. Beating yourself up makes it harder to feel motivated to change the things that would create deeper meaning in your life. And, the thing that's interesting about the research, because we've now had, I think 136,000 people go through a 5-day challenge that has been active now for 36 days. They represent 91 countries. Brits are not the only people who think it sounds cheesy. When I first did it, I was like, has my life really gotten this bad that I'm now high-fiving myself in the mirror in my underwear? For God's sakes, Mel. When I asked my husband to try it because he's been struggling with depression, he's like, I am not, that is stupid. I'm not doing that. So if you have that reaction, that's everybody's reaction because it does sound dumb. But don't let the fact that something sounds dumb rob you of the opportunity of potentially discovering the secret to being happier and more fulfilled and feeling more supported and inspired in your day-to-day life. Because every single one of us, the reason why my husband, for example, who struggles with depression, thought it was stupid is because 7 years ago, his restaurant business failed. And we lost $800,000. And that was not money we had, Emma. That was the kids' college savings. That was our home equity line. That was $800,000 liens on our house. And it wasn't until I discovered this high five habit by mistake, high-fiving myself on one very low morning, as pathetic as it sounds, in April of 2020. I did it for a month. I turned to my husband at one morning. I'm like, I really want you to try it for 5 days. He's like, I'm not doing it. It sounds stupid. I'm like, dude, you're freaking depressed and you're annoying and I need your support. Just humor me. So he humors me for 5 days. And we sit down and talk about it. And I learned something from him that he had never shared with me. And it's this. For 7 years, I have stood at my bathroom sink and he has stood at his right next to me. I had no idea that when he looked in the mirror for 7 years, he saw a failure. He saw somebody who didn't provide for their family. He saw somebody who wasn't smart. He saw somebody that he was ashamed of because he had lost not only our money, but other people's money in this restaurant venture. I had no idea he was still holding this over his own head. Because, I wasn't in the restaurant business. We got out of it. I see it as like this horrible thing that happened that we survived. That was the genesis then of the 5-second rule. Without it, like none of this incredible thing would be happening. He's the world's best dad. He became a yoga instructor. I had no idea the amount of shame and judgment this man was living under. And he thought the high five was stupid because why on earth would I high five somebody that I'm ashamed of? Why would I high five somebody who has failed his family? And the act of high fiving yourself, if you're in a very low place, is not like, yeah, fake positivity. I'm American. That's not what this is. It's holy cow, dude. You got to stop being so hard on yourself. You got to give yourself a break. Mm-hmm. You deserve to feel good again. You tried your hardest. I know this is hard. You got to keep going. You got to pull yourself up. It's encouragement. He couldn't climb out of all of this shame because of the beatdown, Emma. Mm. And so, you asked me sort of a lighter question about everybody kind of, and we're all kind of like, funny about feeling celebrated. A lot of people, what you're describing with the high five, people feel that way when their friends take them out for their birthday. I don't want to be the center of attention. Why? Well, because somehow I either feel like I'm not worthy of it, or I've been made to believe it's bad or corny. And I'm telling you, if you look at how you were when you were little, you don't remember this. But when you saw a mirror, you would kiss it, you would twirl, you would throw your hands. You loved the sight of yourself. No 4-year-old's like, God, my thighs are fat. Don't high five you. Like they don't, like that's not wired in your body. That's what life does to you. And so the other thing that's cool about a high five is, you may grow up in a culture or community where high fiving is not something everybody does regularly, but you've watched it in sport. Mm-hmm. You've watched it in viral videos. Your brain has the association already programmed in. There is a need, a hardwired need for connection, for support, for feeling seen. And that's exactly what this does. In fact, it was a UK study that found that a high five without verbal praise is the most powerful way based on research to motivate kids to keep working hard when they're in the middle of a challenging problem. This was published in an academic journal. More than any kind of verbal praise than you can give anybody. Walking up to somebody while they're really struggling through a math problem and just high-fiving them will motivate them more than anything else that you could possibly do.
So true. So powerful and true, definitely. So what do you think causes this disconnection in the mirror and with ourselves?
What causes the connection or the disconnection?
Disconnection.
So I'm going to explain it in two ways. The first one is the kind of more universal way. And then the second one accounts for anybody who has kind of significant trauma. I mentioned kind of 0 to 4. You look in the mirror, you love yourself, you spin, you think you're amazing. No 4-year-olds like my thighs are fat, like I hate myself. That's just not wired in your DNA. That's not what your spirit is. Your spirit is full of hope and love and acceptance and celebration. That's what's inside you. That's your true nature. I believe that somewhere around 8, 9, or 10, we have what's called a break in belonging with self. And we become self-conscious to how we fit in to the world around us. Everybody has an experience. You may not remember it, but you have an experience of one day being at school and you walk into the cafeteria. You'll sit where the hell you want. You're just looking like, okay, where's my heart? Where to go? You're just like, because you are connected to self. And all of a sudden, one day you walk into the cafeteria and your brain goes from the hardwired, loving, accepting, spirit-driven amazingness to the sorting hat from Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. And you look around the cafeteria and your brain goes, you don't look like those kids. You're not like those kids. Those kids are mean. Those are the sports kids. Oh, it's safer to go with these guys. And you immediately start to see the world in places you belong and places you don't. And it's a protection mechanism that comes from evolution. And that has you to start to morph yourself and criticize yourself and reject aspects of yourself simply so you can fit in. Mm-hmm. It's part of the human design. And I believe the high five habit, adding a high five in the mirror to yourself every morning as your morning routine, can help you bring yourself back home to yourself. It can help you rejoin and activate your true nature. It can turn off that criticism and that drumbeat of negativity and that constant rejection and like self-editing that has defined your life for decades. And it can bring you back into feeling the sense of connectedness with exactly who you are and who you're not, a level of acceptance that you can then bring into your life so that you feel more confident in who you are. You feel more accepting in who you are, that you validate yourself so you're not desperately seeking it from everybody else. The second way that this can happen even earlier in people's lives is if you grew up in a wildly traumatic household where you had a parent that was either violent or abusive or had an addiction or was mentally ill or abandoned the family. If you were in a constant state of chaos because you were dealing with poverty or abuse or homelessness, these are very real situations that flip your nervous system onto a hypervigilant trauma anxiety mode for survival. Mm-hmm. And so you immediately abandon self for protection. And that is another way that it happens for almost everybody.
Mm. Absolutely. And like, I'm a big lover of inner child work and what you're explaining there as well, connecting to yourself in the mirror. It's amazing inner child work because that inner child feels seen. It feels validated. It's like, I'm here for you. We're coming back home. So I love how it all ties in together.
The high five habit, first of all, is super simple. I'm just on a mission to get everybody to add a high five to their reflection in the mirror every single morning after they brush their teeth. I want you to make it part of your morning routine. It takes less than 5 seconds. And what's really cool about it is that it leverages all kinds of programming that is already in your brain and in your nervous system that you have aimed and used to support and cheer for other people. Yeah. And I'm going to teach you that by adding a high five in the mirror every morning in the bathroom as part of your morning routine, you will turn all of that amazing brain and energy power right back at yourself. And so that's all that it is. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to do anything other than high five the mirror. Yes, it sounds cheesy. It is shocking how powerful it is. And so given that you have a background in the NFL, why don't you tell everybody what a high five, when a teammate gives it to you, or you give it to them, or you give it to one of your kids, what does a high five mean in your brain, Trucks?
Yeah, I get little chills you said that, because it takes me back to memories of actually getting them, right? I mean, for me, college, high school, college, NFL, you always have these moments where you're fighting to get something done. You're fighting to go play, to stand out. And not only do you have your teammates watch it, the whole stadium watching. And when you have that moment, when you make a play and the crowd roars, like, one of the coolest things is the people that you care most about, them walking up to you, looking you dead in your eyes and saying, great job, and then giving you a high five. Like, it's an immersive, like, everything disappears for a second, like, oh, I feel good. And then the reciprocation of that, right? When someone does well, it's like, oh my, how else do I express? But high five. And it's like you're giving that to somebody else, and you see them express. It's like giving a gift. And so it's interesting, when you first told me this, I was like, that's so crazy how simple and it's been in front of everybody's faces this entire time. But yeah, I never thought of doing it to me.
Yeah. And what happens when you add this to your morning routine, and this is why this is so cool, is that the positive impact, and here's what you can expect. Number one, you can expect to experience a boost in your mood, and that's because your brain will give you a drip of dopamine. You can expect to feel a small jolt of energy. That's because your nervous system recognizes it as a celebratory gesture. And you can expect, in less than 5 days of doing this every single morning as part of your morning routine, you can expect to have the critic in your head start to turn off. It's crazy. And, there's just a tremendous amount of research about how it works, why it works, but it's working because you have a lifetime of positive association with the high five. And what we know based on research is that if you want to change your life, your habits, your relationship, your health, anything, you want to make more money, what research shows is that you will be more successful, more inspired, more motivated, and more fulfilled if you are kind and encouraging to yourself along the way, especially when things are hard. And, I can play this out in a very common sense way. So let's say that you're on the field, right? Take us back to a really big moment where you were the person that was like the person that was supposed to catch the ball or do whatever and score the touchdown. That was going to take us back to a moment like that.
Yeah, so it was big defense, and I was playing. We're playing at Arizona State, and it was my senior year, and it was like 3rd and long, and Arizona's at our place. We need to win the game. I think we're ahead. We needed to get a stop, and there was a play call where I got the blitz. And here's a funny thing. I found out afterwards that the adjustment they made, I shouldn't have blitzed. And so all of a sudden the ball's hiked. I take off and the quarterback almost gets away. I have a video of this. I dive to the left. My fingertips grab his shoulder pads just enough to swing him down. We stop him for a loss, sack. The stadium erupts. I'm by myself. There's no teammates around. And just this flood of amazing. Like, to this day, like, I can still picture the people's eyes I caught when I was looking in the stands.
Incredible. By the way, what you just described, that moment where the stadium erupts and your nervous system has this jolt of electricity. So riveting and pulling you into the presence that even a decade or so later, you can remember the faces of the people who you looked in the eyes. What you're describing is the opposite of trauma. That is a positive celebratory imprint in your nervous system. Your brain remembers that experience, and so does your body, because you got such a flood of positive experience that just like trauma gets remembered in the negative, those positive moments, those heightened states of emotion also get remembered, which is a really important thing to understand. So back to this kind of moment. So let's say that right before you're all about to line up, timeout, you all go over to the sideline. And you're in a huddle and you're talking about the play. And it's now determined that you're the person. Tell me, what do you need to hear from that coach in that moment so that you feel empowered and capable and confident in your ability to rise to this moment?
If I was genuinely thinking about it, I'd be like, hey, like just a look in the eyes of like, you got this. I have no doubt you got it. Like just that little, or even it's funny, football coaches don't do that. Somebody just look at you like a grin, kind of like, I know you got this. That's all I need.
Yeah. Now imagine if you're in that situation where you're facing this big moment and the coach looked at you and said, okay, it's trucks. And people around go, trucks? Are you shitting me?
That'd be a different feeling.
Did you see what he did? That loser? He's not going to make that, like, and they start trashing you. What would happen to your level of motivation and to your mood? How would you feel in that moment?
Fall off a cliff. It would. You wouldn't. It would be it'd almost be like you'd focus so heavily on like not hitting the tree, you'd hit the tree.
Correct. I'm taking you to this storytelling to illustrate a very simple point. We all need every single day that coach to look us in the eye before we start the day and say, you got this. And you need to do that for yourself. And what's happening for every human being right now in the morning is that as they're brushing their teeth, what you're thinking is, you can't handle this. You already fucked up yesterday and you're already behind the ball, and you're trashing yourself before you send yourself into your day. And just like those teammates would make you fall off the cliff, every single one of us, as part of our morning routine, we push ourselves off a cliff, mentally, emotionally, mood, all of it. And that's how we all start our day subconsciously. And I want to get everybody to start practicing this high five, because what happens is you tap into that programming of the coach. And even if you screwed up, raising your hand says, shake it off. I still believe in you. Now get out there and go do it. And that's what you're going to feel shifting in your mind, body, and spirit. The sense of belief, the sense of encouragement that we all need to face the day. That's what the high five habit is.
I love it.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.